Hello everyone. Today the plan is simple. We're going to be discussing the accessibility tree and how to get it to actually load. So I'm currently on my website, and the way you would actually get to the accessibility tree is you would right click, which is triggering the context menu. So I right clicked, I'm going to click on inspect, which is one item inside of the context menu. So that's at the very bottom for me. Inspect. So now that I clicked on the inspect in the context menu, this is the developer tools. I'm able to see the HTML, see any JavaScript errors if there were some in the console. But now, moving on to the right hand side, we have the elements panel. And there are a bunch of different tabs like the styles and computing. The one we really need is the accessibility tab. So if I click on this double right arrow on the elements panel in the developer tools, I need to click on accessibility. So now we have the accessibility tree. And I'm going to actually go onto a different website now to show you how I would use the accessibility tree. But this is how you actually navigate to the accessibility tree and just how to find it. So if I go here, I'm on the W3C W3 website showing compliant code examples, and I'm going to select the tab list or a tab as an example. 1, 2. Okay, here we go. So here I'm on an example tab list tab component. So with the tab component, I know if I navigate this element, I could use the arrow keys to switch between tabs, hit tab into the tab panel, and I can just continue using the website with the keyboard. The main purpose of this is I want to be able to see the name, role, and state information, any sort of accessibility properties available to this element, and I want to see the relationship information. Usually people use some sort of Chrome extension, or they use Andy to actually get information to appear on the screen. But sometimes those tools don't work, so I'm going to use the accessibility tree. So if I right click anywhere on the page, at this context menu, I'm going to click on inspect. And so what I could do is I can actually click on this left button to find the elements I want to focus in on. So now I'm looking at the code, I'm inspecting this particular code, and I see the code information telling me that this element has the role of a tab list, an ARIA label, there's tabs, there's also buttons, a bunch of ARIA traits like ARIA selected. So this information is readable to me. Since I'm a web developer, I have experience with reading HTML and all this information, but to someone who's an accessibility specialist who doesn't have that background, this information might be a little daunting. And so using the accessibility tree, we can essentially filter out all this information that we don't need, and we can get the information that's actually being calculated and see it in a much more digestible format. So on the right hand side, I'm going to click on the double arrows. I'm going to get the accessibility tree to show up. And so now I get this information in a much more readable format with less clutter. So I'm able to see this element here that I'm focused on, which is the Agnes oval panel. I'm able to see that it has the role of a tab, which is overriding its initial role of a button. So that's already there, a useful tool to be able to see what the element's actual role is. I'm able to see any state information, such as this is ARIA selected, and it has ARIA selected of true. I'm able to see additional properties, so this says it's ARIA control. It has the ARIA controls property. If I scroll down, I'm able to see how the accessible name is calculated, and so it's telling me here that the content is providing this element its accessible name. And when I say content, I mean there's actually inner text inside of this element. So there's no ARIA label attribute on it, but if I double click to expand, I'm able to see that there's actual text inside, like a text node. providing information that gives this element a accessible name. Then I'm also able to see if this element's focusable, if it's currently in focus, which it is. And I'm able to see additional information. Just makes my life easier as an accessibility tester to see what information is being provided back to the assistive technology. I'm also able to see child and parent relationship information. So on the accessibility tree itself, I'm able to see that this tab is a child of a tab list. And I'm able to see that this tab list has an accessible name of entertainment. So that's the grouping information. So I can actually click on these elements much quicker. So now I clicked on the tab list, which is the parent element of the individual tab. And it also, as you navigate between elements, it'll actually highlight it on the DOM. So I'm going to click on the tab list again, and I'm able to see that this tab list has a role of a tab list. It has an ARIA label property, and its value is set to entertainment. I'm able to see how the accessible name is calculated. And one really cool thing that I like with the accessibility tree is just this ability to be able to navigate between elements very quickly and just get the useful information I need right away. It updates in real time too. So I'm currently looking at the joke tab. If I navigate to the left and I actually navigated to it, its state is actually updating in real time. So I'm able to see how this information actually communicates to screen reader. I'm going to actually switch to a different component. Like for this example, I'm going to use the menu. I'm going to navigate to the navigation menu button. So again, if I right click on the element, inspect, and I go to the accessibility tree, I'm able to see that this element has, the ARIA has pop-up attribute true. Its label is Y ARIA quick links. I'm able to see the information it's getting. So for some reason, it's saying that it has the role of a combo box. I think it's because there's this ARIA has pop-up true attribute set on it. So if I were to remove this property and I go back to it, I see that now it's regular roles button. And that's because the ARIA has pop-up true provides additional semantics to an element to indicate that it's a menu. So there's lots of really powerful information that you get by using the accessibility tree to see how the screen reader is interpreting things, how the assistive technology will actually interpret things based off settings that are provided on elements. Another really cool thing with the accessibility tree is if I go to, let's say, the actual menu inside of it, there's this ARIA labeled by attribute, and I know that the ARIA labeled by uses an ID as a reference. So this is using the menu button ID. So if I look for that here, find the menu button ID, and this is basically saying, steal this menu's label and use it for your own label. And if I were to actually, let's say if I were to actually put an invalid value inside of this ARIA labeled by, a common mistake I see is people actually treat this as an ARIA label, which this element only accepts IDs. On the accessibility tree, it'll actually let me know that this is invalid. So this element doesn't have a valid accessible name. So that's a really nice trick to be able to see that there's a caution sign. There's this ARIA labeled by being crossed out with the strike through property. And so it's just a lot of power to be able to see like the menu items individually, have a role of a menu item, how things are being calculated. This element's focusable. So yeah, that's the accessibility tree. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope this is valuable to you all. And I hope you start using the accessibility tree a little more in your accessibility testing. Thanks for watching.